Do you ever wonder how you compare financially to others? I think it's healthy to look at benchmarks and see where you're at, see where you might be ahead, see where you might be a little bit behind. Although if you're a regular viewer of my channel and videos like this, I suspect you're going to be ahead in almost every category. And if you find yourself a little behind, you can make some tweaks and catch up while you still have time. Okay, let's jump in. And the first one I want to start with is the median income for an individual in the United States. And that's a little over $1,000 a week. It's $1,041 a week, according to the U.S. Department of Labor Statistics. And that's for a 40-hour week, so it's about $26 an hour. And I want to stress, this is not household income. This is individual income. So that's the first one, right? And I talk about, I don't care how much you earn, you have to spend less than you earn. So let's talk about spending. What is the average spending in the United States? And this number comes in the average spending, the average household. So this is different. The income was per person. This is per household, right? The average household spends $5,577 a month. That's according to the U.S. Department of Labor Statistics. Again, the average individual spends $52,000. So if you annualize that $5,500 a month, it actually comes out to $67,000. So how can that be? Again, the spending is for a household and the income's for an individual. I hope that makes sense. And let's break it out according to the essentials. And this isn't all the essentials, but these are the big ones. Housing is a little under $2,000 a month. Housing is $1,900 a month. The average American household spends $700 for food a month. And the average American household spends $900 a month for a car. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think for many of us, that's the least sacrificial way for us to save money. And speaking of savings, let's go into what the average savings rate is, right? So what you make, less what you're spending, and that's the savings. And the average savings rate is about 6%. And that's according to the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis. So savings rate's a little over 6%. And it peaked, believe it or not, in the early days of COVID. We all lived through that, so I'm sure you believe it. There wasn't a whole lot to spend your money on, so the average savings rate actually peaked at over 20%. Really quite remarkable, and that shows that for a lot of families, right, the essentials are 80%, and then they have 20% on what they want to do with their time. And I think we all saw, just how valuable some of these affordable luxuries are, like, going out to dinner occasionally. I like to go out for coffee with my friends and with my wife. I call it an affordable luxury. Yes, I could make coffee at home and I could invite my friend over to my house, but sometimes it's just more convenient for everybody to just meet at like a local coffee shop. So that's the average savings rate. Okay, and then for people that are spending more than they earn and they're carrying a credit card balance, the average credit card balance, this is according to Wallet Hub. Now, this seems really high. This is a household number, is $10,000. Again, there's the source. It's Wallet Hub. It seems high to me, so I hope you're nowhere near that. And if you are, do what you can to start paying it down. The average credit score is 715. Again, this is a little bit of a surprise for me. It's higher. In this case, it's higher. It's better than what I thought it would be. And that's according to Experian. And you just want to be careful with your credit score. Mostly it's tracked. There's a bazillion different factors, but one of the main drivers is just the timeliness of your payments. And boy, they really hurt you. According to Experian, you can miss one payment out of 100 in general and still have an excellent credit score. If you miss two payments out of 100, now, if these are monthly payments, this is over 8 years. It's 8 years and 4 months is 100 monthly payments. You can miss 2 monthly payments and your credit score already goes down to fair. Just missing 2 out of over 8 years. And if you miss 3, you're going to have a poor credit score. So do what you can to pay your bills on time, because that's going to impact obviously things like, you know, what percent interest you're going to pay for a car loan or a mortgage. I think it's really important for all of us to do what we can to keep our credit score up, and get a copy of your credit score once a year. Each of the reporting bureaus are required by law to give you one free copy of your credit score each year. So reach out to Experian, reach out to the other players, get your credit score, and make sure that they're accurate. It says, I do that, and I'd say at least half of the time there's a mistake on my credit report. So take a look at it. You don't want mistakes there. Okay, your net worth, right after you start saving, and your net worth is just the value of everything that you own minus the value of everything that you owe. So all your debt. So for instance, your house. You might have a house, and most of us have a mortgage. So if your house was your only asset, if it was the only asset and your mortgage was your only debt, your net worth would be the fair market value of your house, less what you owe on it, less what your mortgage is, okay? And this is according to the Federal Reserve. The median household net worth in the United States is $122,000. Now that varies a lot by age. So 35 to 44, the median household net worth is $100,000. Between the ages of 45 and 54, the median household net worth is $170,000. Again, this is household. This is not individual. 55 to 64, it's $210,000. And 65 to 74 is $270,000. Now, if you use the rule of 4%, 4%, let's give me easy math, 4% of $250,000 is going to be $10,000 a year. You add to that Social Security. Let's actually go there next. I have the Social Security numbers. Hold that thought. Social Security, and this is according to the Social Security office, the average benefit, the average Social Security benefit is $1,550 a month. So that would be what, $18,300 a year. So let's call it $18,000. And before we leave Social Security, I want to state an obvious. Your benefit is going to depend on a number of factors: how much you paid into the system, what your salary was for those 40 highest quarters that you paid taxes into the system, into Social Security. The highest of those, that's going to determine your benefit. That's going to be a factor in your benefit. Again, that's what the average is. But another factor, another really important factor, is when you decide to start taking your benefits, right? So again, the average, let's call it $18,000 a year. And previously I'd said about $10,000 a year using the 4% rule, and median household net worth of $250,000. So that would give you about $28,000 a year. And for most of us, that's going to be pretty thin. That's going to be living on a pretty tight budget. So, do what you can to improve your savings rate. And there's two ways to do it. There's the fun way, I think, which is improving your skill sets and trying to make more along the way. Although it's not enough to just make more. Half of the people in the United States that make $100,000 a year or more, over half, I think it's 54%, don't save a dime, right? So don't let that be you. But one way is to improve your skills, and just by taking some courses, maybe going back to school. I'm a big fan of lifetime learning. So whatever it takes for you to develop these new skills, that or cut back on your spending. As we talked earlier, the average savings rate 6%. During COVID, it jumped up to 20%. What that tells me is that the average person, if they were living sacrificially, could save 20%, but you don't want to live sacrificially. So I think it's a combination of making more money, doing what you can to level up your skill set so you can make more money either in your existing job or a new job, and maybe looking at your spending and seeing, what are the things that you're buying that don't truly bring you joy. Okay, so that is the net worth. We talked about Social Security. Okay, I'm going to jump into a few more that are really critical for people as they start to retire. And the last one I promise is life-changing. If you haven't heard me talk about it yet, you need to stay to the end, because I promise you haven't heard it before if it wasn't for me. And it's super, super important. But before we go there, if you're enjoying this video, do me a favor, hit the like button. It does help the YouTube algorithm find other viewers that my videos can help. So thanks for doing that. Also, if you're enjoying my videos, if you're a regular watcher, think about subscribing. And then the last one is, I love reading your comments. If you have a moment, leave me a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the video, and just what you like, and just your thoughts on the video. Okay, enough said. Okay, let's keep going. The next one we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about average retirement age here in a minute, but the median amount, this is what I wanted to talk about next. The median amount saved for retirements. And this is for all adults. And this is by adult, right? The last one, the net worth, was by household. This is by adult, and I know it's confusing going to individual and household, but it just depends on the source of the information. This is from the Federal Reserve. Okay. The median amount saved for retirement for all adults is $65,000, but that's just for people that have accounts. So there's a fourth of the people in the United States believe it or not, don't have any retirement accounts, don't have any banking accounts. So the Federal Reserve doesn't have a way to track that. So for the people that have accounts, it's $65,000. That's for an individual. And I mentioned earlier, a fourth of all adults don't have any account. 1/3 of all American adults have less than $1,000 saved. That's kind of staggering. And then 50% of Americans, half of all Americans have less than $5,000 saved. So, they're really not set up if they have any emergency at all in their life. So really try to set up that emergency fund if you haven't done it already. Okay, so I talked about the $65,000, and that's for all adults. But, as you get close to retirement, what's that number? So for people 65 and older, and this is from the Federal Reserve, the median amount saved is $88,000. Again, that's nowhere near enough. Now, there's a difference between what you've saved and what your net worth is, right? We use the example of a house. The Federal Reserve's data is not taking into account your house. This is just for your accounts. But that 250, I use the example of $250,000. It was a little bit more than that. It was $270,000. That's the net worth. That does take into account the house and your account. So $275,000 for people 65 to 74. $270,000, I should have said. Okay, so the next one. What about average retirement age? And remember, stay to the end, because there's super, super important message I want to make sure I leave with you at the end. What about average retirement age? Unfortunately, that's going up. And it's going up because, and I'm going to compare data from when I was in college, actually, 1986, undergrad. In 1986, a lot more people had pensions. The taxation of Social Security was different. I think Social Security was a little more generous than it is now. And the other thing is, believe it or not, just in that, almost 40 years, that 35-year period since 1986, people are living longer than they did in 1986. Now they're living longer. So people have to save up more, so they're retiring later. In 1986, the average retirement age for a man was 62 years old. And for a woman, it was 57 years old. I suspect I have a number of viewers that, 35 years ago would have already been retired. I'm getting close to that 62 age myself. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting close. And then in 2016, so 30 years later, for men, the average retirement age went from 62 to 65. And for women, that number went from 57 to 63. That's a big jump for women. And I think, a lot more women are in the workforce now than when I was in high school. That big move really happened during my mother's lifetime. But even during my lifetime, I've seen a big move. Okay, And I want to share with you a really, really important statistic, and that is if you're 60 years old, the likelihood, unfortunately, is we have less than 1,000 weeks remaining of healthy active time. I'm going to say that again. Over 60, we likely have less than 1,000 weeks remaining of healthy active time. So I want you to think about these stats. You're probably well ahead of most of these. And really be thoughtful and deliberate about when you retire, because think about what one more year of working is costing you, right? If you have 1,000 weeks, right, that's each year is 5% of those healthy active years. And you can do that once or twice, but if you do that too many years, you're using up the healthiest and the activest time. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, I know you're going to enjoy this video up here, which talks about average retiree income, and this video down here that talks about 5 reasons you should retire as soon as you can. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.